Session 2, Part 1, How to Become a Peer Support Worker. Introducing myself, Amanda Low-Bowley for City in Hackney, Majid, PSW, Peer Support Worker, and Duncan, Senior Community Connector. Okay, welcome Majid. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, thanks for coming. Did you ever volunteer to become a peer support worker?
No, actually I didn't. I was approached after I got discharged from mental health security unit, and at the beginning basically I wasn't too sure whether it was the right career path for me. Mm-hmm. But years later I decided to sort of give it a shot and become a peer support worker.
Interesting. And what was your journey to becoming a peer support worker?
It was really interesting because I was doing a community group with my peers, and basically I got approached by my mentor who does the actual teaching of the course, and there was another peer. He was actually deciding at the time as well in order to sort of become a peer support worker and do the actual training. So we decided to go together and we done the course together. I think it was a period of 8 weeks, once a week, and then after that you get an assessment, and you have to write an essay. It needs to be passed and credited by the Royal College of Psychiatrists.
Yeah.
And then after that I sort of applied for a few vacancies and luckily got the job. So now I'm a forensic peer support worker for the community, namely Hackney.
Wow. And so, how do you feel about the job?
It's great. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had, to be honest. It's very flexible. I sort of deal with my peers with a similar sort of background to me, because that's the essence of a peer support work, like lived experience. So I understand this, what my peers go through, because I've actually gone through the same sort of experience. So that's why I'm sort of trying to support them as much as I can with everything that's meaningful for them. And it's very interesting because I'm not doing the same thing every day. I'm in different parts of London in each day. I do different things, like for example sports, game board sessions in cafes, go for a walk in the park, I even go cinema. So sometimes it doesn't even feel like a job. You just sort of it's very what's the word? It's very good in terms of dealing with my peers, because it doesn't have that typical pressure of a job and the stress element of it. So that's what I like about it, to be honest. And another thing is flexibility. I decide to choose my hour. I choose my hours, and I decide which days I work, which days I don't work. So that flexibility gives me sort of a peace of mind, sort of okay, this week I'm gonna work this day, and that week I'm gonna work a different day. So all these sort of elements in terms of the job is really appealing to me. And I see myself doing it.
What's your relationship with your peers?
It's great. I mean, I would say most of the time, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Most of the time I get on with them, and I'm sort of adamant to sort of tell them about my experience. Because the minute they hear about that, they will take you serious, because it's okay, this guy is not a staff. He's gone through what I've gone through. He understands what I'm feeling. And then that's where the rapport starts to develop. And then we sort of try to navigate what's meaningful for them: sports, leisure activities, college, whatever the case may be. And I sort of I come in order to support them. Yeah, so that's the sort of very integral part of my role.
Interesting. And how do you do your job and manage your work-life balance?
Good question. So basically, I work part-time. So at the moment, I'm doing 10 hours a week. So I decided to work from Monday to Thursday and have myself the weekend off. So in terms of life balance, in terms of work and leisure or whatever, I get the weekend for myself, so I can sort of socialize and do whatever I need to do. In terms of the actual job, it's split into two. So I run groups and I do one-to-one work.
Okay.
So the one-to-one work, meet my peers and decide to do whatever session they want to do. It could be from 1 hour to 3 hours max. And then run the groups. We do different groups in the community. like cinema group, like art and culture group, like walking group, like bridge club, which is really successful. We get about 20 to 30 people turn up every 2 weeks. So yeah, these are elements of my sort of like job. But in terms of like the flexibility, which I love about the job, I can decide if I can work a little bit extra this week and maybe a little bit less the following week. So yeah, it gives me that flexibility and like peace of mind that I can decide when to work and when not to work.
Duncan, welcome.
Thank you. That's all right.
Yeah. What does the Community Connector do?
My role as a community connector is within the NHS Neighbourhood Mental Health team here in Hackney. So as the name kind of says, we are kind of there to act as a bridge between NHS services and services within the community, voluntary sector. That can be both kind of locally within Hackney, across London, and obviously kind of nationwide. So an important part of the ethos of the connectors and why they were brought in as part of the transformation was that we are all hired through voluntary sector organisations. So I work for Mind, and there's a couple of other people who work for Mind, but there are people who work for various organisations across Hackney, Shoreditch Trust, Peter Bedford Housing Association, AGK, and a few others. So I guess the idea of that was kind of that we have a footing within the community organisations that have a history there, have ties to their local area, and it also provides us a kind of non-clinical space in which to meet people as we're trying to move out of kind of clinical NHS settings. So we'd be looking at a kind of range of kind of social issues, whether that's kind of looking at finances, education, employment, kind of social life. And so the idea is that we're kind of meant to be sort of experts in that, and we are helping to link people in, whether that's the signposting, referring, even going with people to activities is a nice part of the job if you can do it and kind of get some first-hand experience. A few of the connectors run groups as well, so we have a few Panborough connectors who work for like Black African Caribbean community, Turkish and Kurdish community, and the Haredi Jewish community. So we kind of do what the name says. I guess we're there to kind of connect people to the community.
Yeah. And how does it overlap with peer support?
Yeah, definitely. I've had both within this role and sort of in a similar role I did in Islington, had really good experience of working with peer support workers. I think my first experience with peer support workers was kind of working into the home treatment teams. They were kind of working with people who were kind of in a crisis, I guess, and so that work with the peer support worker was a really valuable kind of stabilising period where they might be kind of meeting them out in the community, helping them to kind of get out of the house, building that confidence again, at which point then they might hand over to me in a connector role where they kind of are ready to engage, because not everybody's ready to kind of go out and find work or go to a new group. So I think that where the similarity is kind of moving away from clinical NHS roles where people might have a distrust. So obviously that a peer support worker really has, that lived experience, that trust of I'm not here to kind of in a clinical role. And I guess the connectors being not hired by the NHS directly is also trying to have that kind of ethos. So there's definite overlap, and particularly, as well, where someone might be working with me or with other roles within the team, be it kind of an OT or social worker, where they might sort of have a bit of a crisis or whatever, kind of even just help to engage with those professionals and to feel understood. It's not an advocate, because that's a separate thing, but there's definitely advocacy going on there.
Would you say it's the main difference between support community connecting and peer support working is the lived experience? You don't have that.
Yes.
And also you're more advocates than peer support workers, because peer support workers mainly walk alongside and empower the peer to do for
Yeah, I guess we are sort of more administration heavy in terms of kind of going through safety plans and other things, and the idea is, I guess, that's to kind of free up the peer support worker to kind of do what they do best, and again, not kind of make it feel clinical and for there not to be kind of paperwork in the way. It's more of the connection.
Following on again,
Yes.
is there a right way to becoming a peer support worker, and what can it lead to?
Right. So, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way in order to become a peer support worker. It's basically how you sort of like cope with the job, how you implement the training that you received, like i.e. the values of peer support workers, the principles, and how you apply it in terms of like, supporting your peers. So I remember when I first started, I had a few hiccups with some of my peers that I was trying to support, and the relationship was not like in a good side. But I've learned from my mistake because I've had amazing support from my team, because I deal with OTs, I deal with consultants, drama therapists, and psychologists. So I've learned all of this little sort of like mistakes that I've done in the past, and then I implemented it in the next peer that I was supporting. And that kind of sort of like worked in my favor, because obviously I go as I learn. So in the training itself, you don't have anything practical. It's all these theory based.
And a bit of role play.
A bit of role playing, that's correct, yes. So nothing practical whatsoever. So when you start the job, basically, obviously, like any other human being, you get the nerves, at the beginning, you're not sure how to deal with things and stuff like that, but you learn as you go, which kind of helped me to stay a peer support worker now for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I work 10 hours now, and I've got 6 peers that I'm supporting within that 10 hours. So clearly I'm doing something right. So it's just learning how you go, and again.
And is that in the community, isn't it?
Yes. So there's 2 types of peer support workers, forensic peer support workers. There's in-house and there's community. So I'm part of the community team. I prefer the community because it's very sort of versatile. It's very flexible. You're not doing the same thing over and over again. You're in different places, and I love the part of I can travel to different locations around London in order to support my peers. So that's what I like about the peer support worker. It's a really actually interesting job, and I've never had any job like it before, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
it's one of the best jobs I ever did.
Exactly.
Getting my mojo back, getting my confidence back.
Exactly. Absolutely.
When you get ill,
Yep.
your confidence can go just right
Absolutely,
down.
yeah. And it takes a long time for you to get back on that level again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and peer support, it really helped me. Absolutely.
And also there's that mutuality and reciprocity that you are helping them, but they're helping you at the same time.
Absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
can help with your recovery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you learn from them as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
I
100%.
learned so much from my peers. I mean, I never forget, I went to an exhibition and someone gave me, it's about a Mark Rothko painting.
Oh,
And they actually said what it was all about, and what they said in the statement was exactly what it was all about.
oh wow.
And I've been going to the Mark Rothko Room for donkey's years. It never occurred to me that it was like that. It's at the Tate Modern, so and he does these massive abstract paintings. And Duncan, what can it lead to, in your opinion?
Yes, I mean, you've kind of spoken a bit about opportunities. I mean, from my experience in the neighbourhood team, as you say, kind of interacting with kind of lots of different professionals, I think there's no, there's no limit, but there's kind of, from my experience, the peer support workers there are kind of starting to do some training around a Hearing Voices group. We're looking to set one up, and they're looking to kind of help co-facilitate that. I know that one of the peer support workers in Equip with the psychosis service was running one as well before. And I think, you're doing a lot of the same skills and things that kind of support workers do, community connectors, even OT. And so, as you say, I think gives you a good window onto kind of those roles and how the team works, and kind of figure out what you might like to do. And obviously then there are training opportunities within the role, and quite a few of the peers are kind of doing studies outside. One of the peer support workers is doing a master's from an art psychotherapist. So, I think kind of doing the peer support work role can, you can kind of whether you're working in the hospital or in the forensic unit or wherever it might be in the community, you're kind of getting a good overview of where you might fit in, what you might like to do, and kind of, you know, you can apply those skills.
Wow. Still transferable.
Absolutely.
Lived experience, life experience, admin, because when you become a peer support worker you have to deal with Rio and probably Dialogue Plus and Dialogue Plus and all those other types of isms. But and also on the course you deal with equality and diversity, so because you come across so many different types of people, you have to be open.
Absolutely.
So you're learning the law in that sense as well. So there's loads of skills that you gather and you learn and you put into the job. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How have both of you found peer support work useful and why?
So obviously not as a peer support worker, but I guess as I was kind of mentioning before, how supportive the peer support worker role has been, not only for me, but definitely that's where I can speak of, and I know how supportive it's been, but just to the team in general and how much kind of the wider team really values them since they've come on board, and just kind of how it's needed in more walks of life. In, you know, it's not just in mental health, but in so many different areas, to kind of have an understanding of what people are kind of going through and the, you know, the difficulties and the barriers that are there. So
do you think it helps to stigmatise illnesses in a way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know that, you know, I can think of one of the peer support workers talking about an incident where he was speaking up in a daily referral meeting, and I think he had maybe gone through something similar to the resident that was being discussed, the case that was being discussed, and just being able to offer a different perspective on, well, maybe they're thinking this, or maybe they're going through this, and, you know, I was able to kind of change the way the kind of narrative that was, you know, coming from the kind of professionals. So, like, I think that's really, really kind of valuable. Yeah, that's kind of destigmatizing and just putting a different, you know, giving a different view on you know, sort of diagnosis or what someone's going through.
Wow. And also, do you think that they're embedded in your team, someone that you have worked with in the past?
Yeah, completely, totally. I think they're just a part of the team like everyone else, hands-on, but just, yeah, sort of with the added bonus of kind of lived experience and being able to talk up about it. And I think, you know, there will be certain professionals, psychiatrists, occupational therapists, who will have a lived experience of some kind. You know, we all go through mental health struggles to varying degrees, and I think them being able to kind of talk about it would be kind of useful as well. You know, it's not just on the peer support work, because it should be just a bit more of a culture of kind of
like a holistic approach.
Yeah, I appreciate that in some roles it's not always appropriate to kind of reveal your struggles, but a relatability.
Yeah.
I know that certainly some resident service users of services can put professionals on a pedestal and think that they've got this perfect life, and that's not always the case. So I think just kind of removing that kind of hierarchy or and them and us, it's really important.
Yeah, and I think it's very important, because one thing that about the training that we're trying to do is to take away the them and us thing, because there is a hierarchy. So, I mean, we're never going to be equal because we're doing things that are different, but we're going through a personal recovery journey, whereas the clinicians are going through a clinical one. So they're not always thinking from the same page.
Of course.
But we could meet in the middle and then, you know, obviously offer our experiences, offer how we feel about things, let people know that, yes, it might be this way clinically, but on the other hand, it could be this way emotionally, and from a different point of view, it is invaluable.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why, you know, peer support work, you know, why it's very, very useful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how have you found peer support work useful, and why?
It really, really helped me in a lot of, like, you know, ways in my life, because I remember when I got discharged from a skilled unit, my confidence was low. My technology, sort of like knowledge was low as well. So like, you know, I didn't know how to use a smartphone because I never had a smartphone. So like throughout basically living and doing the actual job now, I've got sort of like, you know, a lot of experience, a lot of skills in order to apply. I can run groups now. I can sort of like, you know, do searches. I can sort of like find information. I can sort of like adapt in every situation. So it really helped me a lot, a lot of sort of like, you know, aspects of my life, which is really, really valuable because I think if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be the person I am today, put it this way. So it really helped me a lot, actually. And I strive basically like, you know, to continue doing this for a long time and maybe go up the ladder basically and see what can I sort of like, you know, apply my skills in different sort of like areas. So yeah, really good.
Okay, I think we're almost done. The word of today is well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a lot in mental health and other illnesses as well.
Cool.
But according to the Oxford Dictionary, well-being means a state of being comfortable, healthy or happy. So